By the 7 burning sons of Krotak, nobody told me humans were this peculiar. My name is Vorthak the Magnificent, 3rd scale of the Dragon Council, keeper of ancient flames, and apparently, babysitter to one very upset hatchling. Standing at 47 feet of pure draconic majesty, with scales that shimmer like molten gold and eyes that have witnessed the birth of stars, I should not be reduced to this. Wah! Little Pip wailed, clutching the broken remains of his favorite toy. The small mechanical bird, once capable of singing 17 different melodies and performing aerial acrobatics that would make a fighter pilot weep, now lay in pieces across the crystalline floor of our ship. Oh, fantastic. Just fantastic. Pip, young one, surely we can find you another. I began, my voice rumbling like distant thunder. No. I want this one. The hatchling's voice cracked with the kind of devastation only a 3-year-old dragon could produce. Tears the size of dinner plates splashed onto the deck, each one hot enough to melt steel. I sighed, a sound that accidentally incinerated a nearby potted plant. The Phoenix Gardens nursery was not going to be pleased about that return policy. Now, here's where things get interesting. Our ship, the Eternal Flame, had been drifting through this backwater solar system for routine surveys when our navigation systems decided to throw what humans might call a tantrum. We needed repairs, and the only inhabited planet within reasonable distance was Earth. That tiny blue marble where bipedal mammals somehow convinced themselves they were the apex of evolution. The same species that invented something called reality television and thought pineapple belonged on pizza. The audacity, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and Pip's crying was reaching frequencies that threatened to shatter our hull plating. Captain Vorthak, came the nervous voice of Navigator Quillix through the comm system. We're receiving a transmission from the human repair station. They're offering assistance. I nearly choked on my own fire. Humans? Offering to help us? Apparently, sir. There's a maintenance facility called Murphy's Fix-It Shop. The proprietor claims he can repair anything that's broken. Anything? Oh, this I had to see. Humans and their delightful overconfidence never ceased to amuse me. These were the same creatures who thought duct tape was a legitimate engineering solution. Fine, I growled. Set course for this. Murphy's establishment. But cloak the ship. I refused to have the entire Dragon Council know I sought help from mammals. 20 minutes later, I found myself doing something I never thought possible, walking through the front door of a human repair shop while carrying a sobbing dragon hatchling and a bag of broken toy parts. The smell hit me first. Oil, metal shavings, coffee that had been brewing since the previous geological era, and something distinctly human that I couldn't quite identify. The shop was cramped, cluttered, and absolutely fascinating in its complete lack of organization. Behind a counter covered in tools that looked like they'd been salvaged from a scrapyard stood a human male. Average height for his species, graying hair, wearing coveralls that had seen better decades, and sporting the kind of confidence that only came from fixing impossible things on a daily basis. Well, I'll be damned, he said, looking up from a disassembled toaster. Don't get many folks like you in here. I cleared my throat, which unfortunately produced a small puff of smoke. I am Vorthak the Magnificent, and this is Pip. We have a situation. The human, whose name tag read Jake Murphy, if it's broken, I can fix it, set down his screwdriver and walked around the counter. He was completely unfazed by my presence, which was either remarkably brave or remarkably stupid. With humans, it was often impossible to tell the difference. What seems to be the problem, Mr. Magnificent? I gestured to the bag of broken parts. The hatchling's toy. It's deceased. Jake peered into the bag, then at Pip, who had reduced his wailing to pitiful sniffles. Mechanical songbird, huh? Haven't seen one of these models in years. Looks like Andromedan craftsmanship. Wait. He knew Andromedan craftsmanship? This insignificant mammal recognized technology from a civilization that had been building machines when his species was still discovering fire? You're familiar with off-world engineering? I asked, trying to keep the surprise out of my voice. Jake shrugged. Buddy, I've been fixing things for 40 years. Started with Earth tech, but word gets around. Got ships stopping by from all over the galaxy. Turns out, when you can fix a 1987 Chevy transmission, fixing a quantum flux capacitor isn't that much harder. He was either the most brilliant human I'd ever encountered or completely insane. Again, with humans, the distinction was academic. Can you repair it? I asked. Jake examined the pieces more carefully, his weathered hands surprisingly gentle as he sorted through the delicate components. Well, the harmonic resonator's cracked, the wing servos are shot, and somebody's been using the wrong type of lubricant on the gyroscopic stabilizers. Pip hiccuped, a small flame escaping his nostrils. But, Jake continued, I think we can bring this little guy back to life. Might take a couple hours though. Hours? I rumbled. We have advanced Dragon Empire technology aboard our ship. Surely we could, with respect, Mr. Magnificent, Jake interrupted, if your advanced technology could fix it, you wouldn't be standing in my shop. The absolute nerve. The unmitigated gall. The complete accuracy of his statement was infuriating. Very well, human. Proceed with your repairs. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about primitive mammals and their supposed limitations. Jake Murphy rolled up his sleeves, cracked his knuckles, and got to work with the kind of focused intensity I'd only seen from master engineers of the Dragon Council. He spread the broken toy parts across his workbench like a surgeon preparing for a delicate operation. All right, little buddy, he said to Pip, who had stopped crying and was now watching with wide, curious eyes. Let's see what we can do about your friend here. The human pulled out a magnifying glass that looked older than some of the planets I'd conquered and began examining each component. His movements were precise, methodical, and surprisingly reverent as he handled the alien technology. He muttered, poking at a crystalline circuit with a tool that appeared to be a modified dental pick. Someone's been feeding this poor thing regular synthetic oil instead of bioadaptive lubricants. That's like putting maple syrup in a Ferrari's engine. I blinked. Slowly. You know about bioadaptive lubricants? Buddy, I've seen enough busted hyperdrive cores to know good maintenance from bad, Jake replied without looking up. This little songbird's been running on the wrong fuel for months. Impossible. The Dragon Empire's finest technicians had declared the toy beyond repair. They'd suggested simply acquiring a replacement from the Andromedan Luxury Toy Consortium, which would have cost approximately the same as a small moon, yet here was this human, this primitive bipedal mammal, diagnosing problems our experts had missed entirely. Jake reached into a drawer that seemed to contain every small part ever manufactured in the known galaxy. Now, the tricky bit is going to be the harmonic resonator. These things are tuned to specific frequencies, and your little guy here. He glanced at Pip. What's his favorite song? Pip perked up, his tail twitching with excitement. The Ballad of the Seven Suns. Classic choice, Jake nodded approvingly. That's in the key of B-flat minor, with harmonic overtones in the crystalline spectrum. Gonna need to recalibrate this resonator to match his vocal patterns. My jaw dropped. Literally. It hit the floor with a metallic clang that made Jake look up. You understand dragon music theory? I managed to ask. Music is music, Jake shrugged. Doesn't matter if it comes from Earth, Andromeda, or the Dragon Empire. Physics is physics, frequency is frequency. Though I gotta say, you folks have some beautiful compositions. That piece about the eternal flame gives me chills every time. He knew our sacred anthem. This human, in his cluttered shop on a backwater planet, knew our most revered cultural masterpiece. For the next hour, I watched in growing amazement as Jake worked his impossible magic. He soldered connections with steady hands, adjusted tiny gears with improvised tools, and somehow coaxed broken components back to life through sheer determination and what could only be described as mechanical empathy. There we go, he muttered, installing a wing servo with surgical precision. Just needed a little love and the right touch. Pip had climbed onto the workbench, following Jake's every move with rapt attention. The human patiently answered every question the hatchling asked, explaining his techniques in terms a young dragon could understand. Why do you use that funny wrench? Pip asked. Because sometimes the regular tools don't fit, Jake replied. So you make new ones. That's half of fixing things, kiddo. Knowing when to adapt. Adapt. Such a simple concept, yet one that seemed to define this entire species. While other civilizations perfected their existing technologies, humans apparently just figured things out. They improvised, modified, and somehow made everything work. All right, Jake announced, holding up the reassembled toy. Moment of truth. He pressed a small button on the bird's chest, and nothing happened. Pip's face fell. My heart sank. Jake grinned. Just kidding. I always test the power coupling first. He flipped a tiny switch, and suddenly the mechanical bird burst to life in a shower of holographic sparks and melodious song. Pip shrieked with joy, a sound that shattered 3 windows and set off car alarms throughout the neighborhood. The little songbird took flight, performing loops and spirals while singing the most beautiful rendition of the Ballad of the Seven Suns I'd ever heard. Jake. Jake. You fixed him. Pip bounced up and down, his happiness infectious enough to make even my ancient, cynical heart warm slightly. The human wiped his hands on a rag, looking quietly satisfied. Just took a little patience and the right approach. I stared at him, this unremarkable-looking mammal who had just accomplished the impossible. How much do I owe you? Jake waved dismissively. For fixing a kid's toy? Nothing. Just promise me you'll use the right lubricants from now on. Nothing? He wanted nothing for performing a miracle? Surely there must be something. I insisted. Jake paused, considering. Well, if you're ever back this way, maybe bring some of those crystallized fire gems I've heard about. My granddaughter's studying geology, and I bet she'd love to see one. Crystallized fire gems. He was asking for geological samples for educational purposes. Not payment, not favor, not political advantage. He wanted to inspire a young human's curiosity about the universe. As we prepared to leave, Pip clutching his restored toy, Jake walked us to the door. You know, he said casually, if you ever need anything else fixed, I'm always here. Doesn't matter what species, what technology, what problem. If it's broken, I can probably figure out how to make it work again. I looked back at his cluttered shop, at this human who had accomplished the impossible with nothing more than skill, determination, and genuine kindness toward a crying child. Jake Murphy, I said formally, you have earned the respect of Vorthak the Magnificent. He chuckled. Just doing my job, Mr. Magnificent. Just doing my job. As we walked back to our cloaked ship, Pip dancing alongside his singing toy, I found myself reconsidering everything I thought I knew about humans. Perhaps these mammals weren't as primitive as we'd assumed. Perhaps their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, but something far more dangerous, their refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible, and somewhere in the back of my mind, a troubling thought began to form. If one human in a small repair shop could accomplish miracles with broken toys, what might their entire species be capable of when properly motivated? The Dragon Council, I realized, might need to revise their assessment of Earth's inhabitants. Substantially.